Welcome to the Office of the Leader of the Opposition press conference for September 20, 2022. As I usually
I can
do,
hear you.
are you hearing me now, Mr. Adam Harris?
Yeah, hearing you.
Okay, so I'll go again. Welcome to the Office of the Leader of the Opposition press conference for September 20th, 2022. As I usually do, I'll introduce my panel and then we'll have the press statement, which will be read in two parts. To my right is the Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Aubrey Norton, Member of Parliament, and to his right is Ms. Amanda Walton Desir, Member of Parliament. Today's the first part of the press statement will be read by the Leader of the Opposition.
PPP's discrimination is obvious and real and on the increase. The People's Progressive Party's actions are confirming that the party is racist and that they are seeking to destroy the Afro-Guyanese community and Indian and indigenous peoples who they perceive to be supporters of the APNU-AFC. The list of actions that are clearly racist in nature is long. Their attempt to take away the lands from Caring for Others Guyana Inc., a humanitarian organization owned by an African Guyanese, Mrs. Eslyn Richmond Shockley, is a clear indication that the PPP is seeking to impoverish African Guyanese. This organization works to alleviate poverty in Guyana and brings relief to poor people. The foregoing must be taken against the backdrop of the PPP taking legal action against the Afro-Guyanese who got lands and properties at Wales and Enmore. It is important to note that the government lost these cases and are seeking to appeal. The PPP's intention to regularize squatting at Pigeon Island, while at the same time threatening the African Guyanese squatters in Mokka to bulldoze their property, is another indication of their racist policies. The action to take away lands from the African Guyanese at Kurukuru Co-op to give to PPP supporters is another case in question. The PPP's action to take away lands from the co-op on the Essequibo coast clearly manifests that the PPP is seeking to build two Guyanas, one in which the PPP elite friends and family are extremely rich and the mass of African, Indian and indigenous Guyanese are marginalized and poor. A recent visit to Barcara revealed a similar pattern of discrimination. The residents of Barcara contend that the Ministry of Agriculture visited their community, assessed their losses, which included many heads of cattle, among other livestock, and crops, and promised relief. The resident noted that similar losses on the quarantine resulted in farmers obtaining millions of dollars as relief. The residents further contended that when it came to their community, they were given a paltry $50,000 regardless of the fact that they lost far more than that. The residents believe that it is a clear case of discrimination. The action by the PPP to ensure that most of the contracts awarded in Region 10 go to their elite friends and family is also a clear indication that the PPP is seeking to dominate and control communities that voted for the APNU-AFC. In addition, their action aimed at preventing Londoners from owning land along the Wismar-Rockstone Road is another indication that the government is hell-bent on marginalizing and destroying the economic base of the people of Region 10. This is just a sample of the discrimination against African Guyanese community and Indian and indigenous Guyanese who they perceive to support the APNU-AFC. In the case of Albaistang, government's continued assault and mistreatment of citizen communities noted. The APNU-AFC have noted the Independence Boulevard project currently underway in the Le Penitence Albaistang area. We have also noted the concerns of the residents who have been identified for removal by the Ministry of Works to facilitate the project. The residents have publicly expressed their displeasure at a high-handed and disrespectful manner which the Minister of Public Works, Wanajil, who is carrying out the mandate of the PPP government, has approached the matter of their relocation. On Friday, September 16, 2022, a team of opposition members of parliament visited the area and interacted with persons on the ground. The residents are adamant that they are not against the development. The APNU-AFC recalls that the PPPC government, in its previous iteration, when it had removed squatters from the Lamaha Railway embankment, provided those squatters with free house lots, building materials, and transportation to move their possessions and building materials to their new location. The people of Albaiston are demanding the same, and they deserve no less. We are concerned as well that the government is failing to adopt a holistic approach to the development of the area. A cursory examination of the roads and drainage infrastructure in the community would reveal that these are in the most deplorable state and in urgent need of repair. One would think that repairing and upgrading the primary infrastructure within the community would have been the obvious priority. The APNU-AFC therefore calls on the government to stop disrespecting the residents of Albaiston and provide the necessary support in order to facilitate their relocation. Clearly, the PPP has no vision for the development of communities, including Albaiston, and are taking a piecemeal approach to development rather than having a clear vision backed by a comprehensive plan.
Thank you. The other half of the statement will be read by Member of Parliament, Ms. Amanzo Walton this year.
Thank you, Ms. Haynes. Our response to the recent comments by Irfan Ali on Vice President Bar Jagdio's involvement in Sugate. Now, the good people of Guyana would have read with much ire in yesterday's Stabrook News the recent comments by President Irfan Ali on Sugate. President Ali seemed mostly to be trying to convince himself that the allegations of bribery and abuse of office surrounding the Vice President did not damage the international reputation of our country. For the entire episode, the President is reported as postulating that it was a failed plot by the Western countries to discredit the leader of a third world nation and to tarnish the image of developing countries that are populated with quote-unquote brown faces. Were the matter not so serious, one would have been tempted to laugh at the President's utterances. If indeed the international reputation of the country suffered no harm, as President Ali believes, then it could only mean that the rampant high-level corruption in the PPP government is already so widely known and has already wreaked havoc on the country's image. It could only mean that Sugate was therefore merely another drop in the ocean of PPP corruption. That the President himself is defending Vice President Jagdio makes it clear that he is complicit in corruption. Whatever the case, the President needs to man up and instruct Bar Jagdio to demit office with immediate effect. The bribery allegations against the VP are not only a matter of international image. They have direct and deep implications for the public's trust in the PPP government. Who can sensibly deny that the Sugate bribery scandal has further entrenched the public perception that every deal involving the VP or a PPP minister requires investors to pay so-called consultation or processing fees? That is corruption. And we repeat our call for a credible international investigation into the allegations of bribery and corruption which have been leveled against Vice President Jagdio. GCOM must investigate evidence of impersonation urgently. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, you will recall at our last press conference, we called on GCOM to urgently submit all of the APNU-AFC submissions to the Guyana Police Force and the General Registry Office for verification. We added that the Commission must then publicly release all the verification reports it receives and must apprise the nation of the corrective actions it intends to take should the verification process confirm massive voter impersonation, as we are confident it will. We have dispatched a letter to GCOM on this issue, and we will be providing you further information as the matter unfolds. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At this time, I will open the floor for questions regarding the press statement.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
First, Mr. Norton, you spoke about the acts of discrimination against people of African ancestry and those who appear to be supportive of the coalition. No, sir, this is the International Decade for People of African Descent. Have you attempted to really raise this matter with the United Nations? Because we have been talking about this for a very, very long time. But there seems to be nothing more than talk, sir.
At the last meeting we had with the UN rep here, we did raise this question, and in fact we are researching the best possible way to get it into the UN system, but it has already been raised. So I would say to you, yes, and we will in future raise it at other levels. But I want to make a point about the International Decade for the People of African Descent. When the decade was launched, I recall that the PNC didn't participate because of the behavior of the government at the time. But a number of us participated as individuals, and I was one of them. And we produced a comprehensive document on what needs to be done politically, economically, socially, and culturally. That document was delivered to the government. I want to remind people that the only element of it that the government sought to extract, and mind you, it had in things for empowerment of African Guyanese in fishing, in small business, a number of things. But the only element the government chose to extract at the time was to bring an African artist to Guyana. If I recall, it was Miriam Mukiba. And so it tells you that the People's Progressive Party has no interest in the development of African Guyanese in the economic, political, and social realm. They are well prepared to extract the entertainment element, which in their mind, they don't see it as promoting African Guyanese. What they see it as is giving them a diet of entertainment that ensures that they do not focus on the things that matter and focus on the trivialities of life. And that is not to say we don't believe in cultural development. We believe in cultural development, but cultural development will be structured to enhance the people who are involved in the development.
Thank you. Any other questions on the press statement?
All right. This one is for Ms. Walton. You spoke about President Irfan Ali coming to the defense of Vice President Jagdeo. And this isn't the first time he has been doing this. Now, after the elections, a group of people decided that they were going to bring private criminal action against some people. Yes, the DPP might decide to walk in and cancel it. Is anyone prepared to bring private criminal action against Mr. Jagdeo if the government doesn't seem to want to do anything? And let the DPP throw it out if she wants to, and then we'll see where it goes.
Thank you for that question, Mr. Harris. I believe that our focus at this time is on getting the government of Guyana to do the right thing, and that is to have the matter thoroughly investigated. An investigation is warranted so that all the facts are brought to bear. That is the manner in which a legal case is built. So the first demand has to be that the president convene an international organization to investigate these very, very damning allegations. It cannot be that we continue down the road of citizens having to have recourse to private criminal charges, which most likely the DPP, as is her wont to do, she will dismiss them or discharge them. The government must fulfill its responsibility as the key custodian of law and order in this country, and that is, you convene an investigation. In no other functioning democracy, Adam, would you find such damning allegations leveled against a sitting minister of government, and at a bare minimum, that official is not required to step down to facilitate a thorough investigation?
Adam, I want to add a few things here. It should be instructive that the government hurtled to bring out some regional body to investigate the Bascom matter. Clearly, the intention there was to put together a group that they will be able to say there is no evidence against Bascom. Evidence that what Bascom said is true. On the other hand, it is evident that they're not prepared to take that risk with the Jack Doe case. So, not even the limping, lumpy-pumpy investigation that occurred in the Bascom issue, they are prepared to have in the Jack Doe issue. And so that needs to be noted, because were they sure that Jack Doe was not involved in the alleged bribery and corruption, they would have hurtled to do that. But I think they do not have a way out of this one, because they have video recordings, etc. And so they are not taking the risk. And we must see all of these things in context of the PPP seeking to protect Barry Jack Doe, who has been accused, and evidence suggests that the allegations of bribery and corruption are not far-fetched. I have continuously asked him to perform a simple task. Take his assets. Let us start with when he came from, wherever he came from, without anything. And let us look at the rise of him from 1992 to 2015 and see if his earnings could have put him where he is. And if it fails to do that, then he should do the decent thing. But they cannot afford that, because the president himself will be in trouble to explain his wealth vis-a-vis his earnings. So as a group, they have to protect and conceal corruption, because it is the modus vivendi of them. They live by corruption, they progress by corruption, and they corrupt the Guyana police force so as to protect their corruption.
Thank you. Any other questions on the press statement?
This looks like a one-man show.
I'm rather suspecting that they may not just want to ask questions on the press statement, so I was just giving a moment for that. Since nobody else is asking, I will open the floor for any other question.
Well, in that case, I'm going to start as a document.
Okay.
Mr. Norton, Mr. here. Sometime back, you spoke of having people look at the issue of the registration, particularly of the Venezuelans coming to Guyana. Late last week, I think it was, in Jamaica, President Irfan Ali announced that there were 90,000 Venezuelans in Guyana. Do you see that having an impact on this current voter registration? And if so, have you been really checking to see the kind of or certificates that have been distributed to many of these Venezuelans, sir?
Now, first of all, we have been monitoring the process. That's the first thing I would say. In fact, in the process, we had objected to some of them, and some of those objections went through. We are aware that they have compromised the distribution of birth certificates, that they have a minister brother at the birth certificate office, and there are no mechanisms to ensure that the people who get birth certificates are the people who are entitled to. So we are aware of those. We have been doing considerable work on this question of the voters list. You know, we have called for a clean voters list, and just bear with us and watch. You will see what is the next step to be taken.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I don't know. I framed the next step, you see. When they had the voter recount, a lot was done and nothing came out of it. Well, I don't know. We seem to be expecting the best from the authorities when all the evidence suggests that the authorities aren't going to cooperate with expectations.
I put it differently. I would say any sensible politician understanding Guyana would want to contextualize. First, you have to do the things to establish that you want the government system to work. As the government closes every opportunity for good governance, inversely, people are being sensitized. They are creating tensions in the society. And when the people in this society act, they will not be able to say that the normal channels for resolving these issues within the context of good governance have not been used. When the people act, it meant we would have exhausted the opportunities to resolve these issues in the way a normal democratic society does. The international community is here. They have been informed. They are seeing the government's recalcitrance. It is our sincere hope that when the people start to act, they remember that every method that was used to bring a peaceful resolution to these issues were rebuffed by the government of Guyana. One has to in a very structured way, raise these issues at the various levels. There are some in our society who say, oh, protest, break up the place. To them I say, it is easy for you to say that. But as a responsible political party, we're committed to the people of Guyana, and we are giving the government every opportunity to resolve these issues within the context of good governance. Failure to do that, the government would have created the conditions for the people of Guyana to act to achieve their objectives.
Thank you. All right, any other questions? All right. Could you speak up? We're not hearing you clearly.
Good morning, Tamika Rodney from Metro News. I have a question, please.
Very well.
All right, Mr. Narjo, not sure if you touched this before, but I would like to know if you received a response to your letter to the Guyana Elections Commission in request for the documents.
Yes, we did receive the documents and we're acting on them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question, Ryan from TEG.
Go ahead.
There's an article making its rounds on social media about the PNCR General Secretary Peter Chandler Edmonds being asked to resign and that she's on leave. Can Mr. Norton please respond to that? And also, have you identified nominees for the oil fund committees, the investment committee, and the public accountability and oversight committee?
All right, first of all, I don't know of the General Secretary being asked to resign. Surely not by the leadership of the PNCR. I know that the General Secretary has asked for leave, and there's agreement on that. Outside of that, I know members of the press contacted her, and she said to them why she did what she did in terms of a request for leave. I would recommend that you speak directly to her on the question. But I want to reassure you that the People's National Congress Reform has not asked her to resign. Oh, the other question.
The nominees for the
We have not yet provided nominees. You know, we have a case before the court on this question of the Natural Resource Fund. We know the people we want to put there, but this has to be taken in the context of how the government operated with the Natural Resource Fund. Let us recall that we made recommendations which the government refused to consider, and they actually moved to appoint the people they wanted there rather than having a Natural Resource Fund committee that had independent people, professional people, etc. So we are holding on that until we deal with the other issues. You know, we have the court case. We are awaiting the outcome. If the need arises to put people before, we are a political movement that adapts, and we will take action.
Thank you. All right, as we are wrapping up, I'll ask once again, are there any other questions? All right, with no other questions being asked here, I will take this time to thank you for joining our press conference today, to our media personnel and those persons viewing us on our social media platforms. Do have a wonderful afternoon.